On this week's episode of the Crushing Debt Podcast, navigating inflation.
Welcome to the Crushing Debt Podcast with your host, Florida attorney Shawn, where our goal is to help you get rid of the financial bullies in your life.
So welcome back to this week's episode of the Crushing Debt Podcast. My name is Shawn, owner and founder of Yesner Law, and I'm happy to have again... I gotta stop saying that. We should just assume that George is going to be here.
I'm hoping that's the case. George Cabello, your financial coach, again, being allowed to be in the room. So thank you, Shawn. I appreciate that.
Yeah, thanks, George. How's it going?
I'm doing okay. Everybody's healthy. I've got my kids in one kid in college, and spending money, but having fun out there and learning some stuff. And obviously, my youngest in high school. A lot of auditions, a lot of singing in the house. So it's good to hear, but at the same time, it's like, okay, girl, we get it. You're amazing. Leave us alone.
Well, and I think I, too, can say everyone is healthy, although we had a little bit of a scare. Everybody's okay, but for those of you, maybe I'll do an episode about more medical debt here coming up in the future.
Because you're getting one.
Because I'm going to have to negotiate away my own medical debt. Everybody's fine, but we did have a little bit of a medical scare over the last week. My wife had her gallbladder out, so she's now less of a woman.
Oh, jeez.
No, I'm kidding.
We need to edit that right there.
I'm kidding. I'm teasing. She is happy. She is healthy. She's at home recovering. She got discharged from the hospital. She's at home recovering now, one less gallbladder. So
that's good, though.
Yeah, she's doing fine. So, yeah, we're going to have some medical debt coming up in the future that I'm going to have to negotiate
And apparently
away.
Shawn's getting a new apartment because he's going to get kicked out of his house soon.
Yeah,
so.
And apparently I'm going to get a second household and maybe even engaging some divorce attorneys after this. Who knows?
Oh, boy.
So, no, she's doing fine. She's doing fine. Everyone's doing good. Kids are doing good. Thank you to everybody that reached out, that helped out. Thank you, George. He helped out this morning with something that I needed help with, and thank you to everybody else. So, last week, I was at a conference called FinCon, and I think you can go to finconexpo.com, I think is the website. So, FinCon is basically a seminar, a conference for people in the creative space that talk about finances. So, it's full of bloggers, YouTubers, podcasters, people that have Instagram channels, people that have TikTok channels, people that basically create around finances. And it bounces around year to year. This year it happened to be in Orlando, and so I couldn't avoid not going when it was kind of in our backyard. I think next year, 2023, I think FinCon is in late October, and it's in New Orleans, I believe.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah, so those of you that are interested in these kinds of topics, you definitely get a tremendous amount of networking. You definitely get a tremendous amount of education, and I would highly, highly suggest you check out FinCon. I don't know yet if I'm going. I don't know yet. I'll talk to George about it. We'll see. Maybe one of the two of us or maybe both of us can get out there. Also, PodFest is coming up in January of 2023. And so we'll see about that. That'll be definitely in Orlando. And so we'll talk some more about that as it approaches. But one of the great things about FinCon is all the networking and all the education. And so there were a bunch of topics that kind of interested me that I thought I'd bring back to the show. And George and I can put our own spin on those same topics that we talked about or that the presenters talked about at FinCon. Now, before we get to that real quick, I do want to plug our first sponsor. He is Mark Purvis. He has a website called legacyspotlight.com. And so for those of you that want to preserve some of the stories of your generation for future generations, or if you want to record stories from your parents and grandparents to save for your generation or future generations, that's what legacyspotlight.com is all about. Mark is fantastic. He's been with us since the beginning. He makes us sound fantastic on the podcast here, and he's trying to help you capture and preserve those stories of your family. So go to legacyspotlight.com. Mark is an Emmy award-winning videographer. He's got a ton of experience. He's got all the equipment. He makes it fun. And so definitely check out legacyspotlight.com. So one of the presentations that I saw at FinCon was about navigating inflation. And so I thought that would be a good idea to kind of talk about. So I guess where we can start, there's inflation?
Yeah. What's this again? What's happening?
What's going on with inflation? So yeah, as we sit here, we're at September of 2022. There has been kind of a steady increase in inflation. But unfortunately, I think inflation was necessary. I don't think there was any way that we could have paid back or we can pay back all the money that was given out by the federal government. Regardless, Trump.
You mean giving free money away is, there's consequences to those kind of things?
Yeah.
I mean, we got to help people. I get that. But you're right. Where's it coming from, guys?
And this is not political. I don't
Not at all.
I don't care. Trump presidency, Biden presidency. I don't care. This isn't political. This is more of a function of we took out a lot of money and now we got to pay it back. And the one way to pay it back is inflation. So one of the first questions they ask here is, have you felt the impact of inflation over the last 12 months? So, George, have you felt the impact of inflation over the last 12 months?
Duh. Yeah, of course. Cost of everything seems to be going up. For us, I mean, we had, of course, a move in the past 12 months. So obviously the costs that are related to that. We've had a person going to college, so we had costs related to that. The easy stuff that I can imagine too is food prices seem to be soaring. Gas prices has been crazy up and down. I did see, some reports as well in regards to utilities. The whole thing about like electric, my electric bill is going up. What's happening? It's like I'm using that. So we've seen the cost of everything going up. And to be honest with you, even the chain restaurants, you go out to eat, like I'm not talking, 5-star, man. I'm talking, Mickey D's, Wendy's,
right?
Even that stuff. It's like, man, it used to be family of 4, maybe $20. Now you hovering over $30-$40 itself just to get my classic Big Mac. Come on now.
Yeah, even and I don't I stopped eating at a lot of the fast food.
Well,
chains.
yeah. My doctor told me that. Yeah. Allegedly, I was there.
Allegedly, but even so, when I take the family out, there's a couple of hole in the wall restaurants where we live that we love going to. And I was kind of happy if I could keep it to between $10 to $12 a person.
Right.
So a total bill for the 4 of us, $40, $50, something in that range. Now it's 60, 70,
Easily.
75, easy just to take me and the wife and 2 kids.
Yep, easily.
So, yeah, I mean, we're feeling the impact as well. Gas prices have come down a little bit. And it's actually kind of funny in preparing bankruptcy petitions. I think it reflects in the bankruptcy petitions as well. So now, where before I could take the cost of driving around as part of the budget as $100, $150 a month. Now it's $250, $300, $350, $400 a month,
right?
Just to fill your car and drive around. So even in the bankruptcy practice and budgeting and all that kind of stuff, yeah, I think everybody's feeling the impact of inflation. So,
yeah. I mean, we had to make a lot of adjustments in the budget itself just to make sure we can pay what's needed on the essentials. That the groceries, the things that we need to be able to get around, transportation. So yeah, all of those things, those adjustments. Again, the question is, are we making more money? or where's it coming from? And I started seeing in some of the statistics you're probably going to give us here as well, is some of that is, we're not saving as much,
right? Or
we're taking from the savings. So that seems to be some of the impacts in our budgets as well.
Well, and this is the Crushing Debt podcast, so I thought maybe we'd talk a little bit about what do we do? So what do you suggest? My financial coach, what do you suggest to combat inflation?
A lot of Amazon purchases,
or less Amazon purchases.
That's maybe we're feeling the crunch, so we got to have that high itself. But no, I hear you, man. The big thing is readjusting the budgets. We obviously still need to eat. We still need to get around, go to work. Those adjustments need to be made. Looking at the budgets a little bit of like, okay, what are we? What adjustments we do need to make in that budget. But I think the big thing too is like, what are we sacrificing? Is going out, okay, maybe we don't go out as much.
Yeah.
There's going to be something that's given up until we see some stability back into the economy. More work, getting a second job seems to be, some kind of popularity out there as well. I'm an advocate of just like 40 hours a week would be nice,
right.
But I get it if we need to make that extra money to make ends meet, or even just to continue on our plans, meaning savings, debt, things like that.
My wife did that. So our boys go to Sunday school every Sunday, and so she and our oldest now is preparing for his bar mitzvah. And so my wife went back to the Sunday school and got a job there as a teacher. She's not going to retire from what she's doing now. I'm not going to be able to retire as an attorney based on the temple paying her to teach Sunday school.
Right.
But it's interesting. What they're paying her to teach the Sunday school classes basically offsets what it's costing us to send the kids to Sunday school.
Nice.
So we found a way to send them to Sunday school for free.
Nice. No, and that's okay.
Yeah.
That's a benefit for the family, and it's not costing you, or again, costing you more in the budget that you're doing. That's great.
Well, and that's one of the things that this FinCon topic the speaker brought up. He polled some people for his presentation, and he said, yeah, so 23% of the people that he polled are scouting out deals and discounts.
Yeah.
So,
coupons, going back into coupons and just comparing prices between companies and like Target and Walmart and saying, like, where can I get the best buy for the buck?
28% are cutting back on extracurricular activities. Now, I get it. And if you got to tighten the belt, you got to tighten the belt. Now, I say this as my older son has started travel soccer. My younger son has started flag football. His first flag football game is tomorrow as we record this. Hopefully, by the time this comes out, our record will be 1-0. We'll see.
There you go.
Although it's weird because his team is the Saints, and the first team they play is the Bucks. And so now I got to root for the Saints against the Bucks. It's kind of weird.
It's a weird one, man, but it's okay. We'll forgive you.
The team did ask what jersey number he wanted, and I almost said Jameis Winston's number. We'll see. Anyway, cutting back on extracurricular. My younger son's also signed up for Cub Scouts. So, this cutting back on extracurricular activities hasn't really held true in my house.
Obviously, as parents, we want to, give our kids the best experience. So you do what you have to in regards to that, but it doesn't mean you have to go full-fledged budget busting on some of these extra.
Right.
But it's cutting back. We're not saying take out or eliminate. Depending on your budget each month, you need to make some adjustments. And if that means cutting back one or two things, that's okay.
Well, and I think the other thing that this kind of means, especially in my household, is if we spent the money on it, then we're going to participate in it.
Please.
It's going to be a lot less likely for us to be like, let's sleep in this weekend
Right.
and skip the flag football game, or let's skip
Right.
that practice this week. I'm going to be like, we are milking every single penny out of this activity. If I paid for it, we're going.
Go to sleep early, get up, we're going to play some football.
Right.
So that makes total sense. One of the things here, signing up for money-making apps and services. So I'm thinking Grubhub, maybe some of those. Or is there any others that you can think of regarding that?
So, yeah, Grubhub, Uber
right, gotcha.
Eats. I know we had Tiffany on a couple of weeks ago. She talked about the grocery apps and that kind of stuff.
Instacart, gotcha.
Instacart, right,
gotcha.
and Lyft and all those. But
Right.
what this speaker brought up was apps that make you money. So, in other words, participating in survey apps that make you money, or
Got it.
downloading couponing apps that you can save money, data sharing apps, cash back apps, resale apps like I don't know, the one that
I know Facebook Marketplace. So,
Right.
you could sell your stuff via. So that makes sense. Okay.
Right, Facebook Marketplace,
Gotcha.
Overstock.
Gotcha.
There's a whole bunch of apps that I've seen commercials for where you post stuff for sale and people can buy it on those apps. Even going back to traditional eBay. I talked years ago about my older son trying to sell all of his Pokemon cards on eBay, and I tried to get him into this mini business of let's research the
Right.
value of the cards and see what they're selling for and post them, and what cards do you want to keep and what cards do you want to get rid of. And so even that kind of eBay
Same
kind of
thing.
stuff.
Yeah, going back to eBay. Yeah, I like that. Let me ask you though, I know one of the line items too, have you held off on any big purchases in the last 12 months because of inflation?
Well, I'm going to hold off on a couple of big purchases because I got some medical bills coming up.
Fair enough.
But yeah, my wife wants to get, our couch needs to be replaced. Right. Our dining room table needs to be replaced. Our kitchen table needs to be replaced. Those of you that have listened to the show for a while know that I love my big green egg, and I cook on that green egg smoker all the time. I would love to get either a table for it, and right now it's on the cart, and it's functional, and I love cooking on it. But I'd love to get a table for it. I'd love to build an outdoor kitchen around it. And so, yeah, I've held off on a lot of that kind of stuff. I've got an empty TV mount outside. I'd love to put a TV there.
Put a TV, yeah.
We're having issues with the TV inside, and I just haven't gotten around to fixing it yet. Now, I could probably go to like Costco and pick up a new TV for a couple of $100. I don't know. I got to start saving up a war chest for medical bills too.
There you go.
But yeah, I've held off on some big ticket purchases.
Yeah, same here. I think we did a recent move to down beautiful St. Pete, and for us, it's like Dining room, we have the counter space so we can eat, and of course we eat in front of the television. That's how we do family time sometimes.
Exactly.
But yeah, like a nice dining room set we've kind of held off because it's like, hey, college, hey, moving costs, hey, wow, why is food,
Exactly.
so much. The other thing too, I think we've also kind of stopped on like the Hello Freshes, like we used to really love the, getting fresh ingredients and recipes, but even those started going up in cost. You start to realize, okay, like all the essentials needed for groceries is like making adjustments that we need from that perspective as well.
Well, it's interesting. We haven't yet done the HelloFresh, but I'm actually thinking about going the other way and using not HelloFresh, but the one that the guy that I know is Chef Ami is the name of his company.
Yes, exactly.
And I've been thinking same kind of concept. In other words, you order the meals, he delivers the fresh ingredients to you once a week, and then you make the meals. And the reason that sounds appealing to me is I've got a pantry full of spices that are going bad. I've got a refrigerator full of fresh vegetables that if we don't use them in time go bad.
Yeah.
But these HelloFresh, Chef Ami, all these other companies deliver to you just what you need to make that dinner that night.
Yep.
And so part of my thought process is if I don't have to buy a whole thing of garlic and I just get the ingredients that I need, maybe I can save money there because I'm not buying to stock all the meat in the fridge.
Right.
I'm just getting what I need on a weekly, and I'll probably still stock, meat and hamburgers and, that kind of stuff. But if I can shift to like a Chef Ami, then I can not buy as much as at the grocery store to offset the cost of the Chef Ami.
No, that makes total sense. To be honest with you, how many of us who do grocery shopping, we buy all these things and yet we end up throwing away food? And that's the other frustrating part in regards to that.
Crazy.
Like, again, so the increase in costs with groceries, and yet we're still throwing away food that we pay good money for, and especially fresh foods, meats, things that go bad. What adjustments I've asked people to make in from a client's perspective is, hey, instead of buying once a week, if possible, again, change the routine itself. Maybe buy for the day. Hey, I'm going to go, we're going to cook this. Let me go and get the ingredients for it. It's less likely that you'll be throwing away food. And I get it. Convenience-wise, oh my goodness, I got to go to the grocery store every day. But it may be, okay, instead of, maybe twice a week or 3 times a week, allow you to do it. And again, Instacart, they can deliver groceries to you itself. There is convenience in regards to that. That's one way to be able to cut down on some of that waste, because I think that's that kills me. It's like grapes sitting there and we didn't eat it, or the bananas going and getting, things like that just drive me nuts.
Well, and for me, I do a lot of shopping at Costco and shopping in bulk. But I won't get it if we won't eat it. So every time I go to Costco, and I go every 2 to 3 weeks, but every time I go, I got to buy 2 24 packs of eggs, but we use them.
Yeah.
So I went 2 weeks ago, and I've probably got about 6-7 eggs left out of 48.
That's okay.
So, if I'm going to use it, I'm going to buy it. Now, if it's stuff, I don't need a vat of peanut butter. So I'm not going to buy it.
You need a tub of butter?
Yeah, no, I don't need, a keg of oil, so I'm not going to buy it there. But if I'm going to use it, then yeah, I'm going to buy it.
Yeah, makes sense. One of the other things I saw on the list, too, is that folks are charging to the credit card. So, we're, again, Crushing Debt podcasts. That one worries me. Making ends meet is tough. So if we're not making enough money and the cost of everything is going up, where are we going? We're going to our savings. We're going to our credit cards to make ends meet. And that statistic worries me a little bit.
That statistic, well, on the one hand, it worries me. But on the other hand, it excites me about, an increase in debt settlements, an increase in bankruptcies, an increase in all that kind of stuff. So, which is good for me because I got a mortgage to pay too. But yeah, that one does from a sort of societal, from a crushing debt perspective. Yeah, I would avoid, if I can avoid putting more on the credit cards, I will. And I was very tempted, especially this week with what I was going through. My wife spent 4 nights in the hospital. It was very, very tempting to take the boys and eat out every night, and do all that stuff. And I just you got to stay. It's hard, but you got to stay disciplined.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to say I didn't take the boys out to dinner. I just didn't do it every night.
That's it. And that no shame in the game. That's what we got to make sure. Like people, hey, you do what you got to do for your family and what's important. But once again, you're absolutely correct. It is difficult because it's like, let me do the easy. Drive-through is easy. Let me go and just pick something up. It's easier than sitting down and cooking.
Right.
Big shout out to my wife. She does a lot of that, and she probably will complain to me about this later, so it's okay. I appreciate my wife big time in regards to the cooking and everything she does for the family.
I was joking with my wife. My wife's very much the same way. I help as best I can with, doing the dishes and taking out the garbage and helping with the laundry. I help out as best I can, but she does the bulk of that. And it was funny, as I picked her up to bring her home from the hospital, I was like, thank goodness I'm bringing you home. We got 2 sinks full of dirty dishes. I really need you to. Now, I had done them before. I kept up with dishes every day. I didn't let the dirty dishes accumulate in my sink, but I just wanted to jab her a little bit.
And apparently Shawn he is looking for a divorce attorney.
No, I did the dishes. I did the
Good
I did
job.
the cooking.
Good job, buddy. No, that's good.
I got the boys fed breakfast. I got their lunches packed.
Kids didn't have mismatched socks or a jersey going to school or nothing like that?
They did, but that was on purpose.
Okay, gotcha.
That was on purpose. So what about savings? This one was kind of interesting. Is changing of savings behavior. And so, have you changed your savings behavior? And if so, how? Have you decreased your contribution to savings, increased your contribution to savings, withdrawn more than you would normally, opened a savings account, depleted a savings account? Right. How has savings behavior changed to combat inflation?
Well, I mean, obviously, if you don't have a plan in place where it's either automated or doing anything from that perspective, my guess is okay, I got to pay this, so I'm going to send less money to the savings account. We're going to send less money to pay off the debt, any of those kinds of things. That's the adjustments we make. For me, dude, I automate. I don't see it, and it's still happening. I'm good with it. I don't count it as, I got $25. I'm going to stop savings because of this. I automate it. It goes to where it needs to be. It's doing its role. That's how we combat, for me at least, that's how I combat, and I recommend to my clients combating. It's just automate. If you don't see it in your checking account when it comes to bills and stuff like that, for me, it just makes it less likely that you need to use it. Now, if you're dipping, it's just, are we not having enough to make the ends meet when it comes to groceries and things like that? Then I get it. Now we're going into the savings to actually make things work.
Yeah, but that's what savings is for. I mean, I agree. To the extent you can keep it there and have it work for you and build money for you, absolutely do that. But if you're in a pinch and you need to pull a couple $100 from savings, go for it.
The emergency fund or savings, that has a role to play within your household. The only thing that I would recommend is if you need to pull it, how fast can you put it back? And that's where I'm more worried about, is that people are depleting the savings, but if we're not making enough or not making any adjustments to our budget, you'll start realizing, hey, I pulled $300 this week, another $200 that next week, and all of a sudden the emergency fund or the savings that you had is now not there when you might need it for an medical emergency or something that comes down the road.
What I try to do is pay myself interest. So if I have to pull $100 from savings, I'm going to put back $150. The other day, I paid for something. What did I pay? I paid for something for the Gasparilla crew. I did something for them, and the Gasparilla crew reimbursed me. Well, when I paid for it out of checking. But when I deposited the reimbursement, I deposited it into savings.
Nice.
So I play those games with myself all the time.
I like it. Can I use that? Is that patent pending in
Trademark.
regards to pay yourself interest? I like the idea. Just like anything else, when you talk about, hey, I'm borrowing money from the credit cards, they're gonna, if you don't pay it in time, they're going to pay interest. But that's helping you. That's a good habit. I love the idea.
So that's what I've done. So what about the future? What do you think the future is going to hold here?
I'm seeing a lot of lottery tickets being purchased in my house, and making sure I can. No, here's the thing: if we have a plan, if we have budgets in place, for me, it's more of like, do I need to make adjustments for any downturn or anything that may happen in the future? Let's learn from what that's happening today. Let's make sure we're in a better position so we're not having to kind of suffer or have to make more adjustments or anything like that in the future. I think that's the big key. It's just being more prepared, because it's ebb and flow, right? The economy's going to come up and down. It's going to happen regarding that. And
that's I think the biggest takeaway for me is the ebb and flow. So in other words, we're dealing with inflation. It's here. It's a reality, I think, at this point. But at some point it'll go the other way. The pendulum will swing the other way. Now, whether it does it in the next month or 6 months or 12 months or 18 months, who the heck knows? But the pendulum is going to switch the other way. So let's set the policies now. Let's set what we're going to do for our families, what we're going to do for ourselves personally. Let's set that now and stick to that plan.
It's funny, isn't that when during recessions, it's like, hey, this is the best time to invest.
Yeah.
It's the best time to put in more in regards to buying a house or doing these, there's always opportunities for investing that, I keep hearing on all these social medias itself. The problem is if we're not in a position to do that, we're not taking advantage of these low turns in the economy. That's where it's like a missed opportunity. Man, I could have done something.
Yeah, but again, start small. So
good point.
I have a meeting with my financial advisor. Gosh, I think next week I have a meeting with my financial advisor. And I think I've already decided, I'm going to try to give myself a little bit of a raise here at the law firm. We're doing okay. So I think we can afford that I can do a little bit of a raise. But what I'm going to do is take the entirety of that raise. And I'm not talking a lot. Maybe I get an extra $50, $100, $200, whatever it is. It's not going to be a lot. But whatever it is, take all or a big percentage of that and dump it into my retirement. So that from a take-home perspective, I don't really feel it.
Correct.
But future Shawn is going to thank me for it.
And that's the little things when we talk about, hey, I got a new job and I'm making X amount more money that we're any extra money that we have, if you get a bonus, compensation, anything like that, that's a great way to do it. It's like, hey, let me not use it for any of those things. Let me invest for the future. Let me make sure my savings is in place. Make sure all of these other items are in place so that, once again, the economy will go up and down. Be ready when it's low so that you can either take advantage for investing or just not have to worry so much. Because what worries me in all this is, like, what is it, 9 out of 10 Americans or people that surveyed in that survey itself, they're all worried.
Right.
And they were worried for different reasons. And that's where, but it seemed to still come down to things like paying for groceries or, do I have to work extra or do I have enough savings? So we're all worried about inflation itself. But again, better preparing ourselves maybe lessens that stress in the future. And that's, I think, what we need to do.
And that's what I think. Don't buy into the, we gosh, we had the run on toilet paper and the run on chicken wings. And what else have we had a run on? The run on paper towels.
Purell and all that. We hear a lot of fear in the media. And it's like more, look at your situation, better your situation, have a plan so that you don't have to worry about it when the media is kind of telling you to go freak out.
Yeah, don't buy into it.
Exactly.
Make the decisions for yourself, make the best decisions for yourself and your family. And like we said, in last week's episode on relationships, talk to your spouse about it. Talk about the budget. Talk about, I got this bonus coming. What are we going to do with it? Or I got a raise coming at work. What are we going to do with it? Talk about those things.
I like that. As my wife is probably listening, and eye roll. Mm-hmm. Yeah, all right there. Yeah, let's talk about it. Let's go.
Yeah. Do as I say, not as I do.
That's like exactly right.
So
is the advice, let me tell you this, let me ask you this. Obviously, is the advice different, between like young folks and retirees? If I'm a retiree right now, I'm hearing the media itself, I'm worried, right? Or should I be worried depending on where I am in regards to my situation from a retirement standpoint?
I don't know. That's an interesting question because on the one hand, inflation is causing prices to rise. You've got a fixed amount as a retiree, whether it be pension, whether it be Social Security, whether it be your retirement accounts, whether it be that kind of stuff. You've got kind of a set amount that you know what you're going to be receiving. And as inflation comes and as the market ebbs and flows, it could have an impact on retirees. Now, if I'm a young person, I'm going to get hyper aggressive with the way that I invest because if the market's down, it can only go up from here.
True.
The other thing I kind of think is going on here is retirees and older folks will say, in the last, in the last 6 months, 12 months, the market has dropped, X percent. Well, but from when you started investing, the market is probably up. So much more than that. So have you really lost a ton? Yeah, your portfolio shows that you lost some money. And there's going to be less of a principal balance there to draw from as you're in retirement. But at the same time, if you start early enough, that amount that you've invested started low and has gone up so much from then. Gains and losses, for the most part, are kind of just only on paper, I think.
Right.
So if I were younger or even now, I'm probably getting to the point where I do want to start thinking about how much longer do I want to practice. I'll probably get a little bit more aggressive as the market is down and stays down. I'll probably get a little bit more aggressive about it. I think if you're younger, yes, you definitely get aggressive about investing. If you're older, you just kind of monitor and talk to your financial advisor and get the information and do whatever you think is best.
I like it altogether. I'll talk to Uncle Juan and we'll start investing in Bitcoin too. That's what we're gonna do, buddy.
Yeah, don't invest.
And we're not sponsoring. Thank you.
No.
One other thing too, we talked about using our savings. We talked about that. So one of the other statistics in the slides that you were showing there is that 65% are concerned about depleting their savings and using their credit over the next 12 months. Any tips on that? Because for me, it's like, hey, if you're going to use it, how can we make sure we're putting it back?
Yeah.
But what if we can't? So I mean, what are we doing in those situations?
I mean, if you can't, you can't. And I think what you would have to do at that point is take a look month over month.
Right.
How much am I pulling from savings? How much am I spending? And that's where you start to do the things that will increase your income or decrease your spending. So if you see I'm having to pull $100 from savings, but I'm going out, every weekend for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, well, try to go out every weekend just for dinner. And if you knock out breakfast and lunch as a going out kind of thing, now you're not using as much in savings. Now maybe that $100 negative becomes a $100 or $200 positive to your budget every month. And then you can start repaying it. Or maybe you do go out and get a second job, a part-time job, a side hustle, a Patreon page, which I haven't mentioned yet for us, have I?
Oh, nice guy.
Yeah, thanks. But you go out and you do something that will increase your income or decrease your expenses or both.
Exactly. Great tips. I totally agree. There's got to be some work that we put into it to make these things go forward. You have to make adjustments, and I'm okay with it. Like, hey, if you got to work a second job, no problem. Let's go in that direction, see what we need to do. But once again, any extra money you're paying, or you're getting paid, it's got to have a purpose. And that's the other thing too. It's like, hey, I don't have a budget. I don't have a plan. I'm just going to, we'll make it work. I'll just work 50 more extra hours and that'll make it work. But if you don't know where your money is going, that's what worries me too in all this. It's like, be intentional with what you're doing. Make sure it goes to the savings. Make sure it goes to paying off the credit cards. Stop using the credit cards in those situations and stuff, especially if you're working all these extra hours. Don't create new debt so that you have to continue to do the extra hours, for a longer period of time.
Right. If you're not used to creating and putting a budget together, I wouldn't really worry about it. Just write down.
Yes.
What am I spending? What am I making? You don't have to get really formal as a budget. Although if you want to, we're here for that.
Absolutely.
As well.
Exactly.
So,
we've got Excels if you need to, but I agree. Go old school, a little piece of paper, pen goes a long way, at least to get you started. I totally agree.
So anyway, I think we've pretty much hopefully beat this topic to death.
I think so. I hope people learn something. And one of the other things I see as a suggestion, you'll take on a roommate. So I'm going to be moving in with Shawn. Wait, don't laugh that hard, buddy. What was that all about?
I think actually after some of the comments I've made in this episode, I'm moving in with you.
We got an extra room. Don't worry.
Yeah, so I do want to do a quick plug for our Patreon page. For those of you that listen and support the show, thank you, thank you, thank you. You can continue to do so. We will continue to pump out content. But it would be nice if we could get a couple of bucks to help us offset the costs of putting this show together for you and putting together some of the other things that are coming down the road. So if you go to patreon.com/crushingdebt, that'll take you to our Patreon page if you want to support the show more than just listening, more than just giving reviews and that kind of stuff. If you want to support the show a little bit more, you can do it there. I also want to mention someone who gives a tremendous amount of support to the show, which is Sam Cohen of Attorneys First. He provides errors and omissions insurance or malpractice coverage to attorneys and title companies all over the country. I know that he's got a particular focus on Florida, Texas, and now Alaska. And one day I will get the answer as to why. But I know he's got a particular focus on those 3 states, but he can literally write insurance for anybody in the country. So if you are an attorney or title company, or if you know an attorney or title company and you want to take a look at what your malpractice coverage is doing, contact Sam at attorneysfirst.com, or his website is attorneysfirst.com, and he can help you with that. Thank you, Sam, for your support of the show. But I think that'll do it for this week's episode. So what do you all think about navigating inflation? And I'd love to know what you all are doing to maybe combat inflation. So if you want to drop us an email, our emails are in the show notes, or if you want to respond on whatever social media post you're seeing this episode on, let us know what you're doing to combat inflation or navigate inflation. But I think that'll do it for this week's episode. I think so.
Great job.
Yeah, thank you, George.
Thanks, Shawn, for letting me come again. It was, on the show. It was really appreciate that.
I'll fix that for the next episode. So, meanwhile, hopefully, as you navigate inflation, we hope that you have more money at the end of the month rather than more month at the end of the money. That'll do it for this week's episode of the Crushing Debt Podcast, and we will see you in next week's episode.
If you have questions that you think would make a great topic for a future episode, please email Shawn or connect with us on social media. Shawn Yesner and Yesner Law, PL, are Florida licensed attorneys. The information contained in this week's episode is not a substitute for legal advice. Your situation may differ, especially if you are located somewhere other than the state of Florida. If you have questions, please contact our office or contact a local attorney. Thank you for listening to this week's episode of the Crushing Debt Podcast.